It is 1:02, so I will get started with the panel itself. Everybody, welcome to Therian Dispelling the Earthen Animal Myth. Go. Thank you. I wasn't on the correct screen. Lol. Introduction. For many individuals in the non-human community today, terminology is learned by word of mouth from individuals that have resided in the community for longer, and then pass on that knowledge to further newcomers. Such is the way for many communities, but as a method of information transfer, it can contribute to the loss and future lack of information. Such is the case of our beloved word Therian. Today, I'm going to be talking about the evolution of the word from its earliest predecessor, phenotype, to its current meaning of identifying as an earthen animal, and how it obtained this incredibly narrow and exclusatory meaning. My goal and hope is to bring solace and open a new avenue to those who had previously identified with the term, but were told or had assumed they do not fit the definition. Just as we coin new terms today in order to better convey our understanding of what it is to be ultrahuman, so did those in our past. To better understand what influenced the changes of our terms, we must go back to the beginning of our recorded history in order to learn the roots of our terminology. Some quotes may sound oddly worded or tilted in cadence. Many older sources interweave therianthropy with totem animals, which are no longer discussed today within Therian circles. Full quotes can be found within source links, but they don't have any basis on today's topic and thus have been omitted. Other terms, such as otherkin, are going to be mentioned in reference to how intersectionality has occurred throughout the years, but are not the focus of our gathering today. Some of the sources I will be utilizing must be understood as a product of their time, as our understanding of therianthropy has evolved since the community's first gatherings. Today's topic is not meant to be a commentary or a discussion on how the understanding of therianthropy has an identity and experience has evolved. Finally, everything that is going to be talked about today, I wasn't present in the community to experience firsthand. Instead, this will be an analysis of historical documents, including personal websites and forums, among other community gatherings. I do not speak as a total authority on this subject matter. I am merely bringing to light what I feel that, with evidence, was maliciously made to be forgotten. Thus, I welcome anyone who was present in the community during the times that I mentioned today to correct any inconsistencies in my information. Our history is incomplete due to the nature of the internet, and I will happily accept any primary sources that alter or clarify the information that I have. Then thus we begin with alt-horror werewolves. Alt-horror werewolves was a Usenet group in which the Therian community can trace its originating roots to. While it is a name many have heard in passing, it is a product of a very early version of the internet. It's literally as old as me. Its name refers to its original purpose. It was essentially, as we would understand it today, a sub-forum that was dedicated to fans of the horror genre of media, specifically focusing on werewolves. Fans would gather at alt-horror werewolves to discuss werewolf media, but also attracted a slightly different type of fan. Through the first year of the group's existence, topics would be posted asking about real-life werewolves, some to the tune of claiming to be werewolves. Anyone else who feels the blood of the beast in them? While many users wrote off such topics as roleplayers, discussions of the nature continued to trickle in numbers until shortly after the website's first birthday. A thread was posted by the owner of the forum himself, speaking about how his interest in werewolves stemmed from wanting to get back in touch with nature, and with his feelings of animality. This topic opened a sluice gate of further threads on the subject, talking about the nature of man and the buried feelings of the animal inside. A werebat by the name of Ron created a thread speaking about a dream in which he, as a werebat, was fighting a werewolf and stated, "Sorry, werewolves of the net, it's nothing personal against your phenotype." This is one of, if not the, earliest surviving mention of the term phenotype, and the first umbrella term to be coined in order to discuss other werebeasts that were not werewolves. Not long after, however, another thread proposed the term theriomorph, which is the term that the alt horror werewolves frequently asked questions would go on to use for years. Yet the words were and were creature and lycanthrope continue to be the most commonly used terms among the community. A year after theriomorph was coined, a were native creature by the name of James created a topic stating that the continued use of the word lycanthropy was confusing, and asked, anyone besides me heard of the term therianthropy, which is a more general term for lycanthropy? This is the oldest surviving thread on alt horror werewolves that uses the term, and gained many supporters to the point of being adopted as the term we know today. But as old habits die hard, the origins of our community being rooted in werebeast terminology and aesthetic produced the popular term wereside as an alternative to phenotype, and soon after the coining of polywere, the predecessor to polytherian. The term shifter referred to Therians of all sorts, but typically focused on those who felt the dramatic mental or phantom shifts, and was a term used well into the 2000s. The term were-mythic was also coined at this time, though it never caught popularity as animals of all sorts had been present and accepted in the community since the beginning. Yes, alt horror werewolves was host to many different types of animals, regardless of wolf in the name. We know this by a surviving practice called werecards. Werecards were a user-fillable survey of information on a were creature, and included a section to self-identify one's stereotype. Notable examples include chimeras, griffins, dragons, unicorns, hybrid creatures of all sorts, tigrin, anthro-animals, giants, phoenix, centaur, manticore, and even the infamous were Pontiac. And yes, I do mean the make of car. However, alt horror werewolves' reign as the community hub would not last, and members were scattered to new forums and personal websites as one of the first and largest of its time. Unified trolling events destroyed the forum's usage. But all was not lost, as the members' scatter brought the newly founded community to the internet at large and kicked off a golden age of discussion, introspection, and awakening. Therianthropy, the Wild Plains. Out in the wild of the internet, were creatures took their lycanthropy-based linguistics and shared it with the non-were creature individuals who asked the question of, why were, and why just wolves? While students of alt horror werewolves members would continue to use were-based linguistics for well over a decade, and in some cases into modern day, such as our current word for shifts, many others took Therian and ran to the tall grass. A commonality between the non-humans of the time was ask 10 therianthropes what therianthropy is, and you'll get 11 different answers. Yet, a general consensus shows us that those answers were all on the same page. Twilight Fox, in 1998, writes, a phenotype is an integral part of themselves, something which can never be seen as separate from themselves. Therianthrope.org, carrying over from alt horror werewolves frequently asked questions, which was captured on the Internet Archive in 1998, states, Therianthropy is the ability to mentally transform from the normal human mode of thinking and reacting to an animal one. Lynx's Temple, in 2000, writes, fundamentally, it means that you in some way perceive yourself as occupying the liminal space between human, anthropos, and wild animal, therion. And in a conversation adapted from alt horror werewolves, I prefer the word animality or wereside. I myself don't like the word phenotype as it really is a misnomer. According to Winged Wolf in 2003, the variety of phenotypes is very long, and even includes some animals which are thought to be mythical or legendary, such as dragons and native spirits. Korok says in 2004, a therianthrope, or were, is a person who feels that they have some connection to an animal. They might think they are an animal inside, in mind or a spirit, or that they are part animal in this way. The Cloven-Hooved Goddess, also in 2004, writes, Therianthropes are people who share an integral connection with an animal in such a way that they believe themselves to be that animal, either in spiritual, mental, or emotional capacity. And further states, nobody has the right to claim that dragons cannot be therianthropes. It is up to the individual to choose which label to identify themselves as. Aurora Wolfen, again in 2004, states, there are also wares whose phenotypes is not of this earth, like dragons and griffins, though some say that these are not wares, but otherkin. Aquila, once more in 2004, states, Therianthropy is a constant state of being and way of experiencing or perceiving the world that leads a person to identify as an animal. Masachina states in 2005, Therianthropy is the belief that one is, in whole or in part, one or more animals in some manner other than physically, and goes on to qualify this with, Therians are those believing to have an animal soul, sometimes also mythical animals or extinct ones. Quill tells us in 2006, Therianthropy is a state of being in which the therianthrope exists, lives, thinks, has instincts, and often acts as a non-human animal. Mera, also in 2006, defines it simply as Therianthropy is animality. Project Shift defines it in the years between 2008 and 2010 as the state of being a person who is, feels, or believes that they are in part or whole, non-physically, one or more non-human animals on an integral, personal level. True Form Within in 2009 states, a stereotype can be any sort of animal living or extinct, and goes on to qualify it with, over the past couple of years there has been a huge increase in stereotypes other than wolves, such as an increase in those whose phenotypes are more astral creatures, such as dragons, elves, phoenixes, etc. Moonsong writes in the years between 2009 and 2011, Therian is any human that identifies with a non-human animal. They could identify it with it spiritually, mentally, and sometimes physically. So, where and how did it change? Somewhere around 2006 is where our primary sources in the form of cataloged websites begin to wane in frequency. Thus, this is where hard evidence begins to become scarce. We can speculate on why, and my personal theories include the movement of communities from forum-style chat functions to the increasingly popular instant messaging formats such as Skype, the loss of internet savviness, and thus the lost knowledge of submitting online information to the Internet Archive, the loss of interest in hosting personal websites, in addition to the loss of hosting services such as GeoCities and FreeWebs, the closing of once active but later inactive forums, as well as the roiling turmoil of constantly emerging and dying web hosts such as AOL. In 2002, we see the earliest recorded description that I could find of what Therians are versus otherkin. Glendarry describes otherkin as Therianthropes whose bonded creatures are mythical beings, such as dragons and elves. Otherkin are actually contherianthropes, whereby no M shifting occurs, but they have a constant feeling of being like their bond entity. Granted, while I did not specifically read into otherkin's history for this essay specifically, my research into our term's history finds that it intersects at points with otherkin, going all the way back to alt-horror werewolves to be exact. And this is a very early point of time to encounter this sentiment, which suggests that the quote-unquote argument of Therian's experience other can identify has been going on much longer than we previously thought. It also displays an early schism between the mythical and earthen definitions, being the earliest definition that I was able to find in which distinctly defines mythical creatures as strictly otherkin. I reached out to Orion Scribner in order to hear from someone who was present in the Alter-Human community during that time, and they suggested reading The Field Guide to Otherkin by Lupa, as they recalled a shift in definitions around the time she was gathering information to be included in the book. Field Guide was published late in 2007, and one can speculate it was one, if not more, years in the making, putting the dates of the obtained information in an estimated 2006 to 2007. Under the definition section of the book, Lupa defines therianthropy as people who identify as Earth-based animals in some respect. She later qualifies the statement with, there is some debate as to whether therianthropy should be limited only to those who identify as animals native to this plane of existence. She does mention that several surveyed dragons identified as Therians, but this is the extent of her touching on the subject, and it is the earliest specified definition that I've been able to find that claims Therians are earthen animals only. Considering the Therian community has always had non-earthen animals within it, it's hard to imagine how a community with such strong roots started to oust established members. Lupa's field guide doesn't seem to be the origin of the definition, but it's arguable that it is a cornerstone in its proliferation, due to how well the book encapsulates the community as a whole, and even continues into today so far as to be recommended as an accurate overview of what it is to be ultrahuman. An even earlier source than Lupa's field guide, and one that had a great influence upon her writings, goes by the title of The Magic of Shapeshifting. Released in 2000 and authored by Rosalind Green, the book's contents, of which describe how shapeshifting supposedly works in this world, are controversial at best, and physically impossible and incredibly discouraging at worst. But it's definitely an entertaining, if dangerous, read, and gives us some insight into into some of the most interesting, evolving interactions of the Therian community post-alt horror werewolves. Within her book, Green delves into the physics of how shifters are tied to their species, citing needed access to the energy of the animal in order to assume the correct form. Thus, mythical or fictional animals are impossible forms for shifters to have. However, she does go on to qualify the argument both for earthen animals only, that one would need the energy of the living animal to reference from, and for all species, wherein animals that are nearly extinct or incredibly difficult to find physically, such as the tiger, which is quote-unquote popular in shifters, can be accessed due to the energy from the quote-unquote collective subconscious and its essential structure. With that said, I unfortunately don't have a definitively sourced knowledge of how the earthen animal only definition came to exist, or why the schism began. I only have speculation. Did Green's The Magic of Shapeshifting touch on a real schism in the Therian community that was latent enough that I couldn't find evidence for it? Or was it fabricated for entertainment? Regardless, it was damning enough for Lupa to include into the field guide, a 101 source for many Therians through the years. So why did it change in the community's lexicon? Orion gave me their opinion on the matter, and as it's wonderfully succinct, I'll quote them. Therianthropes have always tended to be defensive about trying to be seen as plausible, whether for spiritual or psychological reasons, and few felt imaginary beings were too implausible. From the sources I've read on the matter, I agree. The few gape kept the many, and over time it became the only definition. There exists the concept of an online echo chamber. It is a phenomenon in which individuals within a closed community learn about a topic and only discuss among themselves, thus prompting all members of the echo chamber to believe that they, and only they, have the correct information on the topic. If the echo chamber becomes the primary source of information on a topic, only that information will ever be known by newcomers, as well as from those that spread the information beyond the echo chamber's walls. Late in 2008, a burgeoning forum, one of few of its kind of the time, named Therian Wilderness, presented the earthen animal definition to its members. An admin going by the name of Ray Harakti posted, Therians are a type of otherkin. Otherkin is is just kin different to standard animals and men, and therianthropes are the branch that are referred to as earth animal humans. Other kin are everything considered not to be earthly animals. Other admins go on to qualify that it was the definition used on all of the personal sites that they had seen, and it would become the definition used by the forum even up to today, where it can be found in the forum's terms and definitions board. Many in attendance may recognize the name of the forum. It was one of the most popular forums for Therians through 2015, but it was also infamous for being somewhat hostile to anyone who wasn't an earthen animal. Messages and threads through the years showed otherkin or non-earthen animals such as dragons joining, being told there's not much here for you, and their introduction post being the last interaction they'd had on the site. Similarly, when individuals argued for non-earthen animals to be able to use Therian, they were shut down in favor of the argument of, this is how it always has been, suck it up. Even when objectively shown the forum was being exclusive or outright ignoring community history. The unyielding nature of the users and the popularity of the forum presented the community with only one option, thus locked new community members into only knowing the exclusive definition, not fostering a community that helped others find language that helped them better understand themselves. I'm a Therian. I'm a genetically modified dinosaur hybrid. I might have been able to pass the mirror test, but I would never have understood the ramifications of being an unnatural animal. I was an animal, and I still am. I experienced dinosaur drives, dinosaur instincts, the urge to chirp, roar, bite, swim, hunt. How does that make me any different than a lion, than a vulture, than a dolphin? The term Therian was always meant to describe animals, but that was taken from those of us who don't fit a perfect, unobtainable mold casted by respectability politics. I joined the community in 2017 and learned the earth and animal definition of Therian. I felt an odd sense of belonging to it, but was shoved out of it. It wasn't until 2021 that I learned the history of the term. So now I share it with you, in hopes that it helps at least one someone find a piece of their identity that they were missing. And that concludes Therian Dispelling the Earthen Animal Myth. As I mentioned, and others may have missed in my pre-essay introduction, you are able to find this slideshow, as well as the master copy of this essay on my website. If I click through a little bit, as the slideshow is downloadable, all of the blue that you see here is hyperlinked so that you can go and see whatever you, any of the citations you would like. They are also hyperlinked on my website. I will reiterate, if you find a broken citation, please let me know. Just give me a DM. I would be happy to, because Discord recently screwed up their image hyperlinking, which broke some of my citations. So, but that is Therianthropy. Let's go back to the beginning so you guys can see the title page. If you guys had any questions for me, what time is it? Oh my god, I didn't even use half an hour. Yeah, if you guys have any community history questions for me, feel free to drop them in panel questions. There's so much that I was able to find in my deep dive of our community history that I just was not able to put in here. Either because it wasn't entirely relevant, or for length. Yeah, I personally, when my goal for writing this was really, it was House of Chimeras that told me that that Therian didn't always mean this. And that nettled me so bad that I became a community historian. And it's been something that I've been fighting to bring back to the modern view ever since I learned. But it was also a lot of fun to be able to go through our community history. And because, like I said earlier, alt horror Will-Worlds is as old as I am. I am a child of the young internet with like GeoCities and the wild appearance of those websites. So it was a lot of fun getting to look at what was archived on the Internet Archive and just like, oh god, that's an old-fashioned GeoCities, my eyes hurt. But there was also a lot of information that I had a lot of fun with. And I cannot suggest it more that if you are at all interested in learning our community history, is to use my citations as a jumping off point, because all of the websites are fun to read, but I did say in the beginning, they are a product of their time, so you gotta... I did run into a couple of websites that pissed me the hell off. Like, I ran into a essay somebody hosted. It was not the website's owner's essay, but it's an essay that they hosted that was complaining about Jurassic Park velociraptors in the community. And y'all, if y'all know me, I am a Jurassic World dinosaur. I was angry. I was so angry. Oh my god. Alright. So I have a question from House Chimeras. Are you planning on continuing on expanding your essay and adding more to your work? So currently, I'm not sure that I have a direction to go. As I stated in the essay itself, I sort of ran into a wall because of how we've lost so much of our internet history to just hosting going away or websites dying and not being on the Internet Archive. I ran into so many dead ends that it was a little discouraging, but also it meant that I couldn't find the answers that I wanted. The other issue here is once personal websites stopped being the norm and everybody moved to forums, a lot of forums can only be read if you have an account, which you can't make accounts if they're on the Internet Archive. So a lot of our information got lost in that way as well, which again presents the dead end. I would be happy if I could find more, but I followed a lot of web rings. I followed a lot of, every link that I could find to other people's websites. I trawled the internet for quite a while, and I do feel as though I was not able to give enough information. But at the same time, I kind of can only present what I can find, right? I would love to be able to, if anybody has anything to link me to, I would love to look it over. Because like I said, it's so much fun to look at. I cannot suggest it enough for anybody who's at all interested to look at. Solomon of the Waterdeep says, do you have any resources on the history of feral mythics or theriomythic Therians? I really can point you at Chimera's timeline of the Therian community. They have done such an amazing job at putting together so many sources. And not only putting together sources, but giving a great summary of each of the sources that they have. And I use that as a jumping off point for everything that I was able to find. And I would be remiss if I ever called any of the links that I could give mine, because so much of it I found through Chimera's timeline. I did find some stuff that wasn't on Chimera's timeline just because it wasn't relevant. But that's not going to have the information that you are going to want in Feral Mythics or Ethereal Mythic Therians, just because, going back to the first point, it's been so hard to find primary sources. And Chimera's already has that covered. Nim says, did Therians only include non-Earth animals that were still fully animalistic, or did it also include more magic and sapient beings in animal bodies? So, like, a lot of people who identified as Therians that I can think of that also match that description were going to be dragons. Now, a little bit of outside history just out of the Therian community. If you were unaware, the Therian community and the Otherkin community evolved separately. It wasn't until, like, the early to mid 2000s when we found each other and started to intermix. Like, as you can see from some of the citations that I have, early 2000, like 2002, is when we really start to see the two communities interacting with each other. The people who were like dragons and unicorns and so on and so forth, who found the Therian community first, very likely had some sort of magical and sapient, like, form and functionality. I have so many different, I looked at so many different websites that it's hard for me to place specific examples, but I will refer you back to my citations because I'm sure you will find some fun ones. Really, if you wanted to look at what our community had, is to go look at where cards. I cannot stress that enough, because I have a link to where cards on my website. It's under my about, and on the right side I have a link to where cards. I do have a link to the webpage of the original where cards. I believe there is also a citation in the slideshow and in the essay that goes to where cards as well, so you have a couple of different ways to get there. But where cards are going to be what you want to look at to see what kind of animals there were in our history. And it's a lot of fun to look at because you get to see, like, these griffins, these dragons. Sure, there's a lot of wolves in there because of how our community started. But when you find those fun ones, like, I wasn't expecting to see a cyclops, right? That was what got me really excited because it was cool. So, yeah, definitely go to the where card links that I have provided, because that's a fun one. That's a real fun one for you to look at. Nova said, where card making panel when we keep talking about it and keep forgetting about it. But yes, I absolutely agree. I definitely agree, because me and some of my headmates have made our where cards, and a few of them are incomplete because they're bad at filling them out. But impromptu where card making panel. Let's go. Let me see if I can't actually find. Oops. Hi, you guys get to see my webpage. Let me move that. So it's not in your, what's it called? Right in your vision. About where cards, index, view, where cards. Let's see if this goes to it. If the Internet Archive is going to, oh, there it goes. All right, Chimera's got it too. Oh, yep, exact same link. Yes, on the focus of modern wear cards, if you do go to the wear card page on my website, I have two different variations of wear cards. We have the original wear card, and we have a late 2000s revival, I believe. It's been a little while since I thought about it. I have both variations on my website, and I do provide the entirety of the wear card skeleton, like the just the base. I do suggest for everybody to be more careful about what sort of information that you share, because wear cards were originally made in about 2003 or 2000, 1993, 1994, 96, around that time, and the internet was nowhere near as expansive as it is today. In fact, it was only really available to people who went to college. Like, you see some discussions on older forums about how people only get back into talking on alt horror werewolves because they get access to the internet through their school. So back then, the practice of sharing information, personal information, was way more expanded. Poppy, so I should add my social security number? No! It was much more common to share personal information online back then. For historical purposes, I leave the basic outline available, but please don't use just the basic information, because otherwise it's going to be difficult. Or you could, Solomon of Waterdeep, me when I drop my den location, you could put silly shit. One of my favorite things, otherwise, looking at original wear cards, is they would fill it out with silly shit. Like, one of the prompts is, what's your favorite hunting technique? And people go crazy with it. Like, I don't know what the original intention was of this prompt, but it got taken out of context, to my assumption, and made very silly. It was very fun. Drop bear attack. So yes, that is the questions that I had in panel questions. And those are my suggestions for people who would like to learn more about community history. Because, like, I jumped into this just looking at Chimera's timeline, which I can suggest as a really great introduction if you don't feel like going and looking at eye-burning websites, because Chimera's did just a great job. They do a great job on everything. Like, their whole non-fiction section of their website is just wonderful. It's so full of information. House of Chimeras. Chimeras? That's me. Yes, it is. That being said, I also have to shout out Orion's Otherkin timeline, and I have not looked at it nearly as much as I should have. I did reference it a few times to find some of the intersections, like where Therian and Otherkin intersected in the fact of mythicals getting pushed out of Therian. But yeah, I have not given it as much attention as it deserves. So please, if this panel interested you at all, I definitely say go check those sources out, because they're great. Yes, absolutely bookmark everything. And everything that you see that has been linked, one of us, like Nova, me, Soul System, we all have these linked, either if it's citations in this essay. Here, let me Let me quick grab you guys the link to the essay on my website, because that might actually be more helpful. Excuse me. There we go. There is, I keep the essay on my website as the master post. If ever there is a change to the essay, it's going to be here. I keep an updated log of what changes I make. This also is where you can download things. You can see the live readings. You can see the original Google Doc that I wrote this on. When this gets uploaded, this will also be put on there for the slideshow part. And I assume I'm going to be words are hard. Presenting this once again at the con. Yeah. I still have 15 minutes. And yes, Poppy, please send your writings to one of the archivists so they can be added. Yes. So don't underestimate what writings mean. If you do what you think is a stupid blurb about a dream or something, please send it to your archivist, because one of the things that I encountered when I was researching is people didn't save things because they didn't think it was important. However, it was the little things that people didn't think were important that did get saved by someone that was the biggest help in me writing what you saw today. And I will forever be grateful that some of these websites got saved, because even the stupid little shit that you might not think is important might be important in the future. Every little thing counts to someone. Yes, Taquito. Absolutely. Like, I cannot understate how important it was for the stupidest little things that contributed hugely to what you saw today. Pantheon said, I'm probably going to start a personal website to upload all my essays on there. Yes! Please! Do it! I've even started pulling my little stupid shit off of Discord, where I've written it, and put it on my website. There is a link on my website. I think it's under essays. It's called A Dinosaur's Journal. Do it! I just do, as soon as I think of something stupid, I write it down, because you never know. It might help somebody else in the future. Also, like I mentioned earlier, with all of the websites going down in the past, we lost so much information. Having a personal website where you can host your own stuff and you know it's not going to go down is huge. Soul System, I have at this point installed the Internet Archive extension, and it auto-archives every web page I am on, including the super amazing Tumblr post I find online from Altered Humans. That is also a good one. It is for Firefox, it is for Chrome, it is for, oh god, don't make me go look for a link for it again. I went looking for a link for it, last week, and it took me an embarrassingly long time to find. If you do not have a personal website and you don't know the first thing about coding, I can't remember exactly who it was, but somebody in another con hosted a panel on how to build a website. I highly suggest go checking that out. Because you know what you can do on a personal website? Make it look your own. You can make it look as stupid as you want, or as pretty as you want, or as great as you want, or as dumb as you want, and then you can put your own stuff on it, because it's great, and it's yours, and nobody can tell you otherwise. what you can do, what you can do to do what? Oh, on a personal website. Anything. Yes. NeoCities is a pretty user-friendly coding for newbies. On my about, I have a link to the code generator that I use to make the basis of my code. So there are people who can get you started, and it's very well labeled. It shows you where to put colors, it tells you what certain code does. My code's a little more advanced than the basic, but what you see is basically what you get. Yeah. Dessler, I don't know how to explain it, but it's hard to get over that feeling of this sucks after writing anything. That is so true. And, like, I feel that way. And I'm up here presenting this to you, and, like, I consider this my magnum opus. But I also know how important it is to the community. And researching and seeing all of those old websites made me realize how little even the stupid shit that you feel is stupid is important to somebody. Soul System, life is messy. Art and writing about life is allowed to be messy too. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, if anybody has a website, either post in the chat or help post it on your introduction if you haven't already. That way people can find your website. They can link you. The community isn't a community unless we come together and show that we're a community, right? Going back to the essay a little bit, and how I found a bunch of the information that I got was what's called web rings. And I know that there is a alter human web ring of some sort. I do not remember details. I've never been part of a web ring, so I don't know how to do web ring, but someone who knows how to do web rings is hosting one. I would suggest getting on that if you have a website. Because I found so many websites that we didn't have in our archives just by going through the web ring. So if you don't know what a web ring is, it is you get a little button on your website that you press next or back, and you'll go to another person's website who is similar to yours, but also a little different because it's personal websites, right? So you go through, it's kind of like if you think about it, it's like a slideshow. And you go through each website in the slideshow by clicking that little button on the web ring. I'm too young to really have been in a web ring, but I have a little bit of experience with them, just a little bit. Con web ring. I have no idea how to make a web ring. That is absolutely forbidden knowledge to me, but I think it would be cool if we had a web ring. So again, a web ring is a little button that gets, so somebody has to register to be part of the web ring. It's a little button that goes on your website, and when it's either there's a back and there's a forward, and if you push one of them, you go to somebody else's website that is in the web ring. And if you think about it like a little slideshow, you'll go from one image in the slideshow to the next image, but instead of being images, it's websites. So you go from one web ring or one web ring member to the next one in the web ring, and eventually it comes back around, but I don't know how that sorcery works. The magic of hyperlinks, basically. Yeah, sorcery. But yeah, like while I was looking through for information for the essay, the web rings were able to bring me to new websites the archives didn't have. Like archive.org had, but our community archives did not have. And I was able to find information on them. It is kind of like an I'm feeling lucky button, but people have to register for being part of the web ring. And then they get added to the circle, basically, is how I understand it. Yeah, but without the risk of getting sent to a shady site. Bring back website award trophies. Yes, I love stupid buttons. They make me so happy. I do have 7 more minutes. If anybody else had any questions about the essay or had any questions about history or what have you, I'm just kind of like looking at the panel stage and commenting where I'd feel like it. The only downside of like having little website awards is somebody has to make the art. Which is like the downside is somebody's got to make the art, and then it's like I as an artist is like, yeah, I'm gonna do the thing, and then I never do the thing. Yeah, Orion Scribner, web rings were a lifesaver before big web browsers like Google made it easy to find personal websites. Now that AI generated content has been wrecking our search results, we need a web rings again. Yes. Especially since like every time that we have a con, people have been linking their personal websites. But it's so hard that unless somebody permanently links from one website to another to find things. Like I have a select few like as many links as I've been able to do on my website because I learned from the research how important it is to have so many people's personal views. That's how I had so many different uh definitions for Therian. I didn't just hand pick them. They were spilling out of my hands, really. And I had to choose the ones that were most appropriate. Pantheon asks, is there a general way to check if our community archive has a certain website logged already? Been super interested in learning to archive for the community, and I'm already a bit of a link and info hoarder as it is. I am going to point you toward Nova. I'm going to point you toward Orion, Poppy, Chimera's page. They have combined a Alter Human archive. You can also check out Otherkin Wiki, which is another website hoard. What am I thinking of? Thank you, Alter Human Archive, NeoCities. Thank you so much. Because there's also Nova. What is that website that y'all have been using? It's like a Zotero. Thank you, Soul. Zotero is also another one where you guys can get in on. If you want to be link hoarders, absolutely. We've got things, and it's great. Oh, okay. So the link to Zotero is, and also the Alterhuman archive is in the it should be in one of the official channels today. Let me see. I haven't seen it personally, so I can't say for myself. In advertisements. All right, so those links are in advertisements for you guys to take a look at. Well, with 2 minutes left, and doesn't look like any more questions for me, I will close out. Please feel free to keep up the discussion, though, because it's a very important discussion to have. And thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for coming and sitting down and listening, because it is such an important part of our community history. And if you have any questions for me after the panel, feel free to DM me, right? I will answer them as best as any questions as best I can. And if I personally can't, I will send you to where I know, right? So, y'all guys have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the con.